welcome back to the Wellness Paradox podcast. I'm so grateful that you joined us on this journey towards greater human flourishing. As always, I'm your host, Michael Stack, an exercise physiologist by training and a health entrepreneur and a health educator by trade. And I'm fascinated by a phenomena I call the wellness paradox. This paradox, as I view it, is the trust, interaction, and communication gap between fitness professionals and our medical community. This podcast is all about closing off that gap by disseminating the latest, most evidence-based, and most engaging information in the health sciences. And to do that in episode 66, we're joined by Lisa Doherty. Lisa's the founder of MedFit Network. And as you'll hear her talk about in this conversation, MedFit Network started as just simply a database for fitness professionals that were educated in working with populations that had medical issues. And now she's expanded that to an educational program and even a physician referral program called MedFit Care. I think this is a very, very interesting conversation because to some degree, it's on the tip of the spear of the things that we're trying to do as an industry to move on to the healthcare continuum. Lisa has a lot of energy and a lot of passion for this subject. You'll hear her story. It started with her dad's illness and looking for resources to help him deal with his cancer when he had that condition and get through exercise. So I think Lisa's a wealth of knowledge in this area, and I think provides some really, really poignant thoughts about the things we need to do to move on to the healthcare continuum. So any information that we want to share with you from today's episode can be found on the show notes page by going to wellnessparadoxpod.com/episode 66. Please enjoy this conversation with Lisa Doherty. Well, welcome back to the Wellness Paradox podcast. Today, we're delighted to be joined by Lisa Doherty. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I am super excited for this conversation. You and I, connected over social media. You reached out to me, so thank you. Thank you for reaching out to me, and you told me all about the MedFit Network, and it's kind of the genesis of the conversation we're going to get in today, which is going to talk about a lot of the amazing things you're doing. For starters, why don't you just give us a little bit more about your background and your story that led to this point?
Sure. Well, I changed careers in my 30s. I'm 58, and I had the opportunity to go back to school. I was in the securities industry, stocks and bonds, and it was very stressful. My dad was battling his second cancer, and UC Irvine had a 2-year fitness instructor program. And what was really cool about it, it was taught at a teaching medical university hospital center. So I was immersed in medicine, learning fitness, and that's not the norm for our industry. So my goal when I graduated was I was going to come out and work with cancer survivors. What I found back in 1999, that there really wasn't any trainers that worked with what we called special populations at the time. And honestly, I think healthy people are the special populations now. So I went on to take 15 chronic disease and exercise certificate programs from a company called DSW Fitness. They're no longer around. Human Kinetics bought them out. And I got the title Chronic Disease and Exercise Specialist. So they had courses on Alzheimer's and fibromyalgia and cancer and diabetes, MS, Parkinson's, osteoporosis, you name it. And there was no internet when I started my business. You look too young, Mike, to know or remember that time, but there was no internet. And the internet came out, and I built a website, Whole Body Fitness. And so I was getting emails from all over the United States asking if there was a trainer or a studio like mine near them. There was no WebMD. So when you Googled diabetes and exercise, I was number one on Google for a short time. There was no Johns Hopkins University. There was nothing. It was just a brand new internet, Full Body Fitness, and SEO mattered. And I had a lot of keywords because I had a lot of articles and blogs about all the courses I took. So I was getting emails from over the United States. I was trying to figure out how to help these people. So I would contact DSW Fitness and say, hey, did you sell a diabetes course in this city? I have a lead for somebody.
Yeah.
And after doing that for a few years, they would laugh when I called. And I said, this isn't funny. Tell these people to build websites, or tell them to put on their website that they have this education and that they have these services. So I saw there was a problem, and I'm a problem solver. I've been born a problem solver. So I went back to UC Irvine and I said, I want to start a database management company, a registry. of fitness professionals, studio clubs, anybody who had any services or programs for all those things I mentioned. I don't know how to do that. I'm a personal trainer. And I met with the entrepreneur class at the business school at UC Irvine and for the semester, and they were graded on creating a business plan for MedFit Network. So I mean, very grassroots. Went back to UC Irvine Computer Science, and it took them 2 years to build the MedFit Network. I know you recently joined, yes. So you can see, you can do your pictures of your facility, your bio, your prices. Do you take Venmo? We just updated now Venmo, Zelle, new payment options, your education. Do you take insurance? If you're a chiropractor and so forth. So anyway, so we built this registry and I'm thinking, well, how am I going to get the word out that it exists? And so I started to reach out to different companies, NASM, ISSA, Perform Better, Power Systems, Personal Fitness Professional Magazine. And I said, I'm starting the MedFit Network. It's free. Everything was free back then. I didn't do this I just did it to solve a problem, not to make money. And they're like, wow, what a great idea. Thanks for supporting our industry. Sure, we'll send emails out to, trainers who get certified or buy our fitness equipment. Thanks for doing this for our industry. So we grew the registry to about 30,000 professionals. This is now 2016.
Yeah.
I was featured in the Huffington Post, Why You Should Know Lisa Doherty and Medical Fitness. My dad was on his 4th cancer. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying, you're going to be on 20/20 or 60 Minutes for doing this. And I said, Dad, I'm not interested in being on TV. And a week after my dad died, May of 2016, I got an email from the White House, President Obama, and I was acknowledged as a Champion of Change finalist for creating the MedFit Network. I wish it would have came a week earlier, so I think that was better than being on TV. That got me a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. Mayo Clinic reached out to me, United Healthcare. Wow, what a great idea. A registry of fitness and allied healthcare professionals that have furthered their education on medical conditions and chronic disease. How many people do you have on the network? Is it HIPAA secure? And what I learned, Mike, is that there wasn't enough trainers with education to really create a network effect in all 50 states. Yeah. And those of us on there, me included, there was no relevant continued education for any of us who did any of those specialist certificate programs back in the day. Yeah. So again, there's another problem. If we're really going to align with healthcare, we can't do one and done courses. And we need more trainers to take education. So I started another project, the MedFit Education Foundation, not for profit. Do you want me to stop there? Any questions?
No. So this is great. I mean, this is, it's your linear kind of problem solving mindset. You said first, okay, well, we got to be able to find these people. And then the problem you ran into once they could find those people was there was not enough people to find, largely because there wasn't enough continuing education. So this started with the idea of just building a network with the supposition that the network was already there. You just needed to database it, but then you created the database and there wasn't enough people to put in it. So it sounds like your next charge was to build education to help populate this database. So yeah, continue there. That's perfect.
You're right on point. So anyways, we started in 2017 with just a webinar series. We did weekly webinars. Everybody does webinars now.
They do.
But I've been doing them for 5 years. Club Industry has touted my webinar series, industry acclaimed, because I was doing webinars on topics 5 years ago that no one was touching. Mm-hmm. So then I started the Medical Fitness Tour, a traveling conference, and we had 8 conferences in 2 years. We went from Seattle, Chicago, San Francisco, and I said it was like a rock star tour. Yeah. The Avengers of special populations coming to a city near you. That was our joke. After 8 conferences, I told my team, you know what, I need to take 2020 off. I'm running a personal training business, a network, a foundation. I did 8 conferences. I need time off. And it was very fortuitous because COVID hit.
Yeah, right.
And I had no conferences scheduled. And my team's like, well, what are we going to do in 2020? And I said, you know what, I want to recreate that education I took, 19 years ago. And I want to make it up to date and timely. And I want to have Con Ed for it. So 2020, I spent interviewing subject matter experts in the fitness industry. Some were very easy. Christine Conti had rheumatoid arthritis. So for me to ask her to author an arthritis course, David Lyons has MS. Rick Ritchie, who won Personal Trainer of the Year at IDEA, has diabetes. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to reach out to some of these people because they had the condition, but like Alzheimer's, no one in the industry has Alzheimer's. And I had Jonathan Ross, he was 3-time Trainer of the Year, IDEA, ACE, and PFP. And he does Funtensity, so brain stuff for IDEA. And he said he'd be honored. So that's where the journey began with these courses. These courses are a minimum of 10 hours because in our industry, 10 hours makes you a specialist. Okay. Mike, I think that's wrong because could you imagine if a doctor took a 10-hour oncology course and became an oncologist? But that's where the bar is in our industry. These courses begin at 10 hours and they go to 20 hours max. Because I didn't know if trainers would have the bandwidth to go more than 20 hours. Sorry, trainers, you listening out there, but we're going to gradually creep up the bar, but right now 10 hours. These courses include exercise programming for virtual training, outdoor programming, telehealth, because that's the new norm. For us now. So the courses were created during COVID, which was cool. All course outline proposals were reviewed by a medical advisory board before they were even developed. I wanted to make sure trainers stayed in scope of practice. Did they cover the progression of the disease, pharmaceutical management, any surgical interventions? So the outlines were approved by doctors. All these courses include a business component because in our industry, the average trainer lasts 2 years. So the last thing I want is for someone to become a arthritis fitness specialist and they fail in 2 years. So what good is my registry or that education if we lost that person? So all the courses include, how do you go to a rheumatologist and tell them about your curriculum? What Facebook forum groups can you join for people that have arthritis to tell them that you're a trainer? How do you go and talk to a physical therapist, to your point to the, webinar you did with us? So it gives them all the business stuff for that specialist on how they talk about it. And then something I thought was really important to me because I've been in this space for 23 years. I wanted them to meet who they were going to work with. So the Parkinson's course, I'll highlight that one. She interviewed different people of genders and ages of when they got diagnosed with Parkinson's. How did they feel about it? How was exercise helping them? I wanted you to meet people with Parkinson's. She interviewed a caregiver. So when they drop that person off at the gym, I want you to know what they're going through. They probably need your help too, to be honest. A speech therapist, an occupational therapist, a neurologist, because I wanted the trainer to know that when someone says, I went to a speech pathologist, what did they do? How is that part of the healthcare team that you're on? So I wanted them to meet any healthcare medical professional and meet the person they were going to work with. And I want to note that all these people donated their times, which is amazing because they all thought this education was so important. So anyways, we launched the courses and then I hope to launch my conferences next year. And the next evolution of this project is MedFit Care. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions.
And MedFit Care is a topic in and of itself that I want to get to in a moment, but I want to circle back around to kind of your mindset behind all of this, because I think it's really interesting and very telling, kind of given where the industry's been at and where it's going. And, the first place I want to start with this is just, you kind of alluded to the state of, education in our industry. And, we've always been very fragmented from a certification perspective. Academic curriculums vary. I always say, if you could go to University of Michigan, get a degree in kinesiology, you can go to UCLA, and you can go to Texas. It's all a kinesiology degree, but it's not a uniform curriculum. Whereas if you went to Michigan, UCLA, and Texas for nursing, it's the same curriculum everywhere. So we've had this very fragmented education system in our industry. But what I'm specifically interested in asking you about as it relates to these curriculums that you guys have developed as a group, you said that, hey, we started these at 10 hours because we got to be realistic. We'd like to get them up to 20. In your mind, what's an ideal state for that kind of continuing education in our industry? How much time do you think that our professionals should be putting into learning something like, rheumatoid arthritis, if that's what they want to be studying, or diabetes? Like, if you could wave your magic wand and bandwidth wasn't an issue, what would it be?
All right. Well, before I directly answer that question, I'm going to make a couple comments. We tease in our industry that there's no barrier to entry. Anybody can call themselves a personal trainer. If they work out, they can put up a signpost and be a personal trainer. And that puts a burden on the consumer and the medical community because they don't know how to distinguish if someone's just a personal trainer because they say so. Yeah. There's no other industry that says, well, I'm a dentist because I said so, or anything like that, or I'm a chiropractor or massage therapist. But our industry does that. To this day, our industry, you can become a personal trainer in one day.
Yeah.
I think that's wrong. We joke about it, but we're still doing it in 2022. I don't even think you could be a car mechanic in one day. You could take an 8-hour to work on someone's car. Yeah. And still to this date in the fitness industry, you could take an 8-hour workshop at an event and be a personal trainer. I think that's wrong. So to your point about consistency in education, what I'm doing with these specialist certificates, that's what they're called. They're not certifications, they're specialist certificate programs, is I'm trying to create a foundation that we could build off of, to your point, and grow. And I see this as a multi-generational project. I don't see me accomplishing everything in my lifetime. I'm hoping to hand the baton to the next person. But I would like to align with the medical community more if we're going to be truly part of the healthcare team. So what's the magic number of how much education? It could depend on, maybe Parkinson's is more than someone that has, I'm just going to make this up, diabetes. So I don't know if there's a magic number that they all have to be, but I would like to continue to work with our medical advisory board because they review all these courses and say, okay, what do you think we need for this topic? And it may be different per topic, and start creeping up. What I didn't mention, and you kind of alluded to, is to be any of these specialists, you have to do relevant continued education. But you cannot be an arthritis fitness specialist for the next 23 years because you took a course in 2020.
Yeah.
So the fitness industry is not going to require continuing education on these courses. But MedFit Network is, you bet, if I'm going to have your name on my registry and saying you're an arthritis fitness specialist, then you're going to be up to date. You're going to have insurance. You're going to have a college degree or a certification. And I set the bar low on that. It's 10 hours every 2 years. Okay, again, that's crazy low.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do to get people going is, if you're a member of the MedFit Network, through our webinar series, we do 48 a year. You're going to get 48 hours of free education every year, as long as you're an MFN member from my foundation, so that you could stay relevant and be on the network. So to me, that's where we're starting. And I think that makes it ease of entry. And then we'll kind of figure it out as we get into MedFit Care and the public and aligning ourselves with healthcare, what demands maybe they want, and then kind of work our way up.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, great. That's a great answer. And I think we actually don't know, in all fairness, what that number is, particularly as the science evolves and as the needs of the consumer evolve and the medical profession talks to us more. What I am curious about, if I'm a fitness professional that's sitting out there right now and I'm listening to this, and presumably if you listen to this podcast, you believe that you are not just a fitness professional, but you are a healthcare provider. And they're saying, wow, this seems great. I'm really interested in this. I'm really passionate about this, but I'm passionate about multiple conditions. Like, I know people that have Parkinson's. I know people who have diabetes. I know people who have this, that, and the other condition, because there's certainly no shortage of, chronic diseases, unfortunately, in our country. How do you advise fitness professionals to think about the path they go down in terms of specialization? Is it your suggestion that, hey, find your condition or two and focus on that, or possibly multiple? How do you get fitness professionals to think about that?
That's a great question. And I've been asked that multiple times. So we do have a Foundations of Medical Fitness by Dan McKeska. You remind me a lot of him, by the way. He's a clinical exercise, whatever specialist. So if you want to just get a foundation and learn, be a general practitioner, I would recommend it's a 20+ hour course. But what I did back in the day is I took a course based on what my clients had at the time. Or if I got a new client, I remember someone asking me, my mom has MS, can you help her? Yeah, I'm going to help her. So I took the MS course. So I think by referrals, when people know that you specialize, they may say, well, can you help my daughter? She's autistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take the autism course. I'll help her.
Yeah.
And that's how I built my resume of courses, is people asking if I could help someone.
Yeah. That's great. That's so true. And I think that's such a good lesson out there for particularly, all fitness professionals, but particularly, newer fitness professionals. I've always found that my best teachers, the ones that caused me to raise the bar for my standard of practice, were my clients, because they brought this issue to me or that issue to me. And like you said, we're predisposed to want to help people. And if we can, we will, but a lot of times that requires acquiring the knowledge to do so.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's just such an important lesson for all of our listeners to hear, is that these problems are going to be presented to you by your clients, and it's your job to be informed and educated enough to address those problems. So I think that that's a very important point.
I'm going to mention, we were at Idea Worlds last week. I know you were 2 weeks ago. And I can't tell you how many trainers came up to our booth and said, wow, I'm working with someone with Parkinson's, and I didn't know you existed. I'm on the internet trying to research Parkinson's because I can't find anything. And I'm so thankful that there's education. And how many trainers had someone and they're trying to find education and they're researching on Google to do that, because there is no education. And when I say that, we've had partnerships globally now, and I'm hearing from like 20 different countries, this education doesn't exist throughout the world.
Yeah.
Do you believe our industry's been around for 3 decades, and we've been saying we want to help people in that, and we just no, this education hasn't existed? I scratch my head. Well, it does now, and there's going to be relevant content that we'll be working on that next year. What's the content to work with people with arthritis?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet. We're going to start doing the research. So we're like a new frontier, like Star Trek.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're building the bridge while you're crossing it right now. And I think that's consistent with the rest of the industry as well. I think, we, on one hand, to your, statement a second ago, it's kind of hard to believe that 30 years, 40 years later, we're still having these conversations. But on the other hand, we're still a relatively young, immature industry. And, hopefully, the work that you and others are doing are critical inflection points to moving us towards the healthcare delivery system, which really gets me to want to dive in to MedFit Care. This is a very, very exciting program. It's in the process of being rolled out right now. So talk to us a little bit about MedFit Care on a high level, and then I'm sure I'll have some follow-up questions.
Sure. So MedFit Care, I want to note that this whole not-for-profit project has been supported by my personal training clients. They've donated $800,000 to this project. And it's because of them that I have these courses, these conferences, these webinars, and MedFit Care. So my clients donated $100,000 last November so that we can start this project. So MedFit Care is going to be a telehealth company. We're going to use Simple Practice. It's a HIPAA secure website. And we are going to deliver medically necessary exercise prescriptions. Okay, so what does that mean? So with a medically necessary exercise prescription, I'm just going to call it an exercise prescription going forward. Trainers, clients, or members, if they have members at a gym or studio, could use HSA or FSA dollars to pay for a personal trainer. So HSA is a health savings account. And it's a tax deferred thing. Anybody can have an HSA. You don't have to work and be an employee of a company. I have one as an independent contractor personal trainer, and I think I could put in like $4,600 a year. Right? So anybody can have an HSA. Flexible spending account is normally when you work for a company and your employer matches what you save every year. And those, if you don't spend it on December 31st, you forfeit it. So a lot of people lose their FSA dollars because they don't spend them. So now if you can get a exercise prescription, you could use FSA dollars to do it. So I think this will take a barrier away, or someone who may not have worked with a trainer before, because now they could use these two sources to pay for a trainer, or it could offset the cost of it. But to me, what I think the best thing is that you could be able to write off your personal trainer on your income tax as a medical expense. A lot of my clients are retired, So they don't have, flexible spending accounts. I don't even know if they do when you're retired, if you do HSAs anymore.
Right.
I'm $10,000 a year to somebody. I'm $75 2 or 3 times a week. I'm $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to write off $10,000 a year of personal training on their income tax as a medical expense, to me, that's the most exciting to me because of my client demographics. So with telehealth, you can't cross state lines. So we are recruiting doctors in all 50 states, one in each state to be the person to write the prescription.
Right.
But you're probably wondering, well, why doesn't doctors write exercise prescriptions right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to ask me a question that you probably and everybody else is listening. Well, why don't they do it now? They don't do it for 3 reasons. They don't get paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid for services and procedures. Number 2, most of them don't know how to write an exercise prescription. They maybe took one class in medical school. A lot of them don't exercise. If I look at my mom's doctor who's telling her to exercise, I look at him thinking he needs to exercise. And number 3, because of liability and exposure. If they write an exercise prescription, even to tell their patient to go to the gym themselves to work out and the person hurts themselves, they're liable. Or if they take it to a trainer and the trainer hurts them, they're liable. So they are liable, they don't know how, and they don't get paid. That's the bottom line. I don't say it to be mean, it's the truth. So the hardest thing for me to start this project, believe it or not, wasn't finding the doctors. We are going to pay them $150. So we're charging the consumer $199 to get an exercise prescription. It's good for 12 months, 1 year.
Okay.
Of that $199, I'm paying the doctor $150 for their time. So that's modest. They're very happy to be a representative in their state and do the telehealth appointment. The other $49 is going to the malpractice insurance and the website. So I want to talk about the malpractice insurance because it's kind of funny. The hardest part for me to do this project wasn't finding the website, wasn't finding the doctors, wasn't getting the money to start it, was getting someone to insure trainers to accept exercise prescriptions.
Yeah.
It took me 5 months. I can't even tell you how many applications we filled out. No one wanted to touch because our industry has no barrier to entry. They just didn't want to touch it. So finally, Lloyd's of London stepped up to the plate. They insure anybody, as you know, Tina Turner's legs, Jennifer Lopez's butt, whatever, your hands if you're a pianist. So they're insuring MedFit Care for 1 year. So we can't screw this up. If we screw this up, no one's going to insure our industry to get exercise prescriptions. So Lloyd's of London knows that our courses, the education the trainers take were reviewed by doctors and approved by doctors. So you can only get a prescription if you've taken the course. Lloyd's of London wants to make sure you have the right education. And you got to be a member of the MedFit Network. Lloyd's of London wants to see your profile page. They want to see your picture. They want to see that you have liability insurance and that you have a college degree or a current primary certification. So Lloyd's of London is asking all this. So they're going to watch the project. They're going to see what exposure they get, for the next year. Can we write exercise prescriptions and everyone behave themselves? So anyways, I'm really excited about this. I think this is a game changer. We're not billing insurance. We're not doing anything with insurance. A lot of my friends that are chiropractors or physical therapists are saying, why do you guys want to get involved with insurance? We're trying to get out of insurance. Yeah. So, but as you and I were talking before we started, people that become MedFit Care providers, we're going to give them decals for their studio, gym, or their car windows. Pretty soon, health insurance companies are going to notice MedFit Care providers. They're going to see the decals on the cars, the decals on the studios. They're going to hear people are getting exercise prescriptions to prevent, treat, and rehabilitate chronic disease and medical conditions. So sooner or later, I think insurance companies, they're going to wake up and see what we're doing as an industry and come to us.
Yeah, I agree. But I also agree it's a smart path to start to not go with insurance because, and I talk about this quite a bit, and I know this, is that insurance isn't all it's cracked up to be. You bill $75 for a personal training session, you spend $25 on administrative costs to do that billing, and then you hope to God that they at least pay you $50 so you could actually get what you billed for at the end of the day. So this is a much more direct path to monetizing it through tax deferred money that people have. And that's the primary basis behind these HSAs and these FSAs. Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. So tell us where you're at with this. I mean, this is just kind of getting off the ground, as we speak. So are there any early returns that you can tell us about on what you're seeing at this point?
So right now we have 50 trainers that have been verified and they've taken a course. So they're going to be the pilot and they're in all different states. It's so exciting. So that means anybody that they're working with that has the condition that they've taken the course can now have a telehealth appointment. So we're actually doing these telehealth appointments for $1 right now for the first group of people.
Yeah.
So that the doctors can practice the telehealth appointment. The person has to fill out a medical history, and we're going to see, can they do these telehealth appointments in 15 minutes? Are they on the phone for an hour because someone's saying, yeah, my back hurts, So we're going to figure out how long these telehealth, how can we efficiently do this?
Right.
Then we'll roll out to the $199 is where we're going to start. But we may go up from there because, again, this is a not-for-profit project, but I do got to pay the doctors. I got to pay Lloyd's of London, and I got to rent Simple Practice.
Yeah. And
I have a practice manager, Brian Prendergrass, who's going to oversee. He's kind of the gatekeeper to all the doctors. So if anybody has any questions, how do I turn this to my account, to get a tax deduction? How do I contact my FSA or HSA? Brian's going to be the customer service. The trainer says, how do I get my profile verified? That's Brian.
Yeah.
So it's going to figure out all that is. But right now they're writing prescriptions for $1. These doctors, just to try it, which I think is so super cool.
Absolutely.
So these doctors are going to be sports medicine doctors because we know they know how to write an exercise prescription.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a sports medicine doctor in all 50 states. And then I'm recruiting OBGYNs as well for women's health because I don't think they want to go to a sports medicine doctor.
Yeah.
So my end game will be to have 100 doctors, 2 in each state, sports medicine, OBGYN, writing for their state, and then, growing from there. And what's really cool, we did a webinar, MedFit Care launch webinar in May. We're doing one August 16th.
Okay.
And we had 1,000 people show up for the webinar, which was one of our biggest attendees besides Joel Furman when we did Eat to Beat COVID, if you know who Dr. Joel Furman is.
Yeah.
We had 1,200 people show up on a Wednesday, but we had 1,000 for this. Anyways, 200 of these people were doctors. And I can't tell you how many of them reached out to us and raised their hand. They didn't even know how much they were getting paid. They just thought, we need to do this. We need exercise prescriptions. I want to be the one for my state. Yes. So I think that's really cool to get that response from doctors, sports medicine.
Yeah.
They appreciate what we're doing.
I love it. This is next level. And it's exciting to hear the process that you're following because you're running a small scale experiment. You're figuring out what works. To your point, we don't have the bandwidth to screw this up. Like this is, we need to do this right. There are no second chances on something like this. So I think that's wise. I'm curious, before we start to bring this to a close, and Lisa, I mean, I feel like any of these things we've talked about, I can go down a rabbit hole for 3 hours on, but not you nor I have that time today. And I'm pretty sure our listeners would cut us off at the hour mark. But the question I do want to ask it, and I think it's an interesting one, and I think a lot about this, and there's a lot of groups in our industry that are trying to do similar things. I mean, the ACSM, ACE, Medical Fitness Association, Exercise is Medicine. I mean, you go on, everyone's working hard kind of towards this common goal. What do you think needs to happen for us to work together more effectively, as succinctly as you can be on that? I mean, I'm curious because I think we're all rowing the boat in the same direction, but we're not all in the same boat. And I feel like if we were all in the same boat. So what do you think, to the extent that you have thought about this, needs to happen?
Well, back when I started this project in 2013, I used to have in my email signature, bringing everybody together to serve the greater good. That was under my name, because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's been really challenging because everyone's in their silos. It seems like people don't want to work together. I don't know if it's about money, if it's about politics, and I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah.
I've invited all those organizations that you mentioned to join the MedFit Network registry. There's no reason why we need to make another public registry. UCI students spent 2 years donating their time. So there's no investors, there's no debt. The registry's there. We could host all of their professionals, ACSM, ACE, for example, Medical Fitness Association. If you're listening, I want to work with you. I think we all need to come together. That's how we're going to make the greatest impact, is if we all work together, because for 30 years, we've all been rowing boats and none of us together with a unified message and a unified education. And that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. And I'm here. I already got the groundwork. Everybody's welcome. I'm happy to share in any money. I never did this for the money. You know that. I've said that a million times. It's not about the money. It's about someone needs to step up and do it. Okay, why? I have the foundation. People around the globe are interested. I don't want to do this alone. I can't do it alone. I want everyone to come together. So if you're listening from all those organizations, call me. I'm here. Let's work together.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been around the industry for a while too. And I feel it's a complicated thing, because there are all these different, players and stakeholders, and there's kind of, institutional, restrictions on certain things with some of the nonprofits. It's complicated, and the complexity is unfortunate, because I think everyone knows this, UI and people from those organizations as well. Ultimately, if we could somehow strip away the complexity and all come together with one unified voice, it'd be for the greater good of everyone. And I hope that as people like you and I have these conversations, and other groups of people talk, we're going to figure that out. But I have to ask that question, because I think to the outsider looking in, they look at our industry and go, okay, well, you've got, this certification group, this, this, what exactly is going on here? And, why isn't there some more uniformity? And I don't think we have the answer yet to actually fix that issue, but I hope by at least keeping that challenge top of mind, that we start to work towards resolving it.
I'm going to keep forging ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. And we have to keep rowing our own boats, to the extent we can, until we can all get in the bigger boat.
Yeah.
So if I'm a fitness professional and I'm listening to this, and I'm interested in, getting involved in all the things that you guys are doing, or I want to explore even the concept of medical fitness a little bit more, because I've heard about it, but I'm not really sure what it is. What would you recommend? What's a good first step for somebody who's thinking like that?
Well, if it was me, it is me. I would say join the MedFit Network. It's a professional organization for all of us. And if you go to medfitnetwork.org, it'll say on the top menu, for professionals, join. Mm-hmm. So I would say join our network. You could join as an individual. You could join as a student if you're in academia, or you could join as a facility. Yeah. If there's a group of you to do that. When you're a member of the network, you get free access to the webinar. So you're starting to get free education right away. Yeah. You get a 30% discount on any courses. So you get a discount and you get free continued education on those courses.
Awesome.
Because you're a member. Yeah. And you get to be a MedFit Care provider. So join MedFit Network. Yeah,
it is a good step to start, engaging in this. And the element of that step that I like is that there is some commitment to that, small commitment, but still a commitment. But it's not even diving into these courses yet. It's just kind of, check out the ecosystem and, see if it's a fit for you. And, I've had a chance to recently really look at MedFit's content on a little bit deeper level. I had a chance to just, a couple days ago, give a webinar for you guys. And I mean, thus far, everything I've seen, I've been very impressed by. There's a lot of solid content. Now, admittedly, I haven't dove in any of the courses yet, but I've just seen the free content that's available, and that's very impressive at this point. So I think that's a great recommendation for our audience, and I will link up to all of those things on the show notes page so people know how to get access to information on MedFit Network, the MedFit Education Foundation, MedFit Care. I mean, there's a lot going on in your world, Lisa, and I want to make sure that if there's something of specific interest to one of our audience members, that they can get to that relatively easily.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on your show. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I think you're going to have my email in the show notes.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I'm an ordinary real person, even though I'm a CEO of 3 companies and I still run a personal training business, by the way. You could call me and email me anytime.
Love it.
Yep, I'm here.
So before I let you go, though, I do have to ask the question I always end the podcast on, and I'm very interested to hear your answer to this question because you're so immersed in this ecosystem. And it's the wellness paradox for me is the gap that exists in communication and in trust and collaboration between, you know, fitness professionals and the medical community. Based on all of your knowledge that you've amassed over the years in this space, if you were to give fitness professionals one piece of advice to close off that gap, what would that one piece of advice be?
Well, I don't think my answer is going to surprise you. You really got to up your education.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so proud of my education. If anybody looks at my website, a doctor, a potential client, my education is very impressive. And so it's your education that's going to make you stand apart from anybody else.
Level up, learn more. Yeah. And given all the great work you do, that makes sense. Lisa Doherty, thank you so much for joining us on the Wellness Paradox.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Lisa as much as I did. If you found it insightful and informative, please share with your friends and colleagues. Those shares make a huge difference for us. Any additional information we'd like to share with you from today's episode can be found on the show notes page by going to wellnessparadoxpod.com/episode 66. Please be on the lookout for next week's episode when it drops on Wednesday. And don't forget to subscribe through your favorite podcast platform. Until we chat again next week, please be well.